Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Kirstine. So really pleased to introduce everybody to you and Kirstine Klitmark from Denmark. And you got in contact with me last December regarding using the Emerging Proud campaign as a research project for your master's thesis in communication and health promotion. Is that correct? And I was just really overjoyed because grounding this in research is really important to me, and I think to everybody involved in the campaign. And it's just been incredible kind of how this has all unfolded over the last 4 months, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to you about your own journey and what led you here, and to let everybody know the details of the research that you're going to be writing about in regards to the campaign. So thank you so much for everything you're doing to support this, and Kirstine, and for being here today to sharing with everybody.
You're most welcome. It's a calling to do it. So.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind letting people know kind of the impetus for you, what started your journey and what you've been through, and what's kind of led you to be so passionate about doing this today?
Yeah, sure. Well, when I was a child, I always felt very much love and devotion to life, and I was really just born into a really loving family. Like when I was born, my whole family was there. In fact, my father was there, my sibling was there, and my grandma was there. I was really surrounded by a lot of love. So I grew up with a lovely childhood. But when I turned 6, I had an experience with one of my brother's friends who kind of in a sexual way took his hand on my lap and looked at me in that sense. And I knew in that moment that it was wrong. So I stood up. I was kind of very sure of myself, and somehow I stood up and I went away and I told my parents, and he got kicked out of the party. But afterwards, I remember myself being shaking on the bed. And I didn't know that at the time, but it was the first time I felt separate from love, for not feeling that connection. But somehow I was, as I am as a person, as I am the feeling of love that I have, I was quickly able to return to that sense of connection. But I also forgot about the experience. And then when I was 8, my grandmother, she died, and she was just my everything. And it was the first time I experienced death, and I really couldn't understand, I grasped the idea about what death really was. And why she had to leave. Like, I felt that she abandoned me in some way. But the only thing I remember was that I was sad. So after that, years went by, many things happened. And when I was 22, I went through a difficult time with my ex-boyfriend. We didn't really talk enough about the problems that was going on in our relationship, and I was just exhausted. I remember one day sitting at the bank with my ex-boyfriend talking about buying an apartment. I just couldn't hold myself together. I was just falling apart. And then I did fall apart, and I went to see a coach who wasn't sensitive about what was going on. She was starting to rip up everything that's happened in my life, and I just couldn't, it was just too much. And I couldn't figure out what this anxiety was about. Like, I was just searching for answers in myself, and I really couldn't manage to do anything else and just, get up and just make the day. But then I got in contact with a clairvoyant, and she could suddenly see the trauma that I had when I was 6 that I had forgotten about. When she started talking about this trauma, I could suddenly start to release, because I could feel this pain hadn't been worked through.
Wow.
So that was really profound. I remember going into her office, and I suddenly I felt such a feeling of light when I came in. And because I felt so much light, I could suddenly get in contact with pain. That's how I felt.
Mm.
But afterwards, it really didn't completely land it in me. And I considered being hospitalized. I remember I just asked my mother, drive me to the hospital, I need to be hospitalized. And when I arrived there, just this great calmness and just clarity just came around me. I just felt like I don't have to be here. Like I didn't feel like that was going to be the answer. And some time after, I went to a meditation with a shaman who was doing this spirit animal meditation, and I was still in the state of anxiety, so I was still not okay. And I lay down, and I suddenly see this deer just running through the forest, and I suddenly feel myself as a steer, and I just started to open up, and the anxiety just started to dissolve, and all my emotions just come to surface. And I remember just standing to the shaman, and I said, now I can just feel myself. I feel the presence, and I start to release a lot of emotions, and I felt so present, and I felt myself. I could just sit on a mountaintop and just meditate and do nothing else. But what I decided is that I decided to go back to my ex-boyfriend and figure things out, and a lot of things did kind of shift in our relationship, and then 4 years went by, and we came into a crisis again, me and my ex-boyfriend. It was a really hard time, and then I went to a funeral with my mother. Just in the same period of time. And at that funeral, my mother, she told me that she was having connection with the spirit of the deceased. And it kind of, at that point, freed out my own understanding of life. I hadn't had any connection with spirit at that time. And I've also had a lot of years where I've had difficulties understanding my mother's experience.
Right.
Because I didn't have any experience myself. And also because my parents had been gone through some crisis about this topic. Like, my father had a hard time understanding his spiritual experiences, and my mother, she really wants to be understood. So I have been in kind of that space.
That's really interesting. Really interesting. It's often kind of the feminine pattern, isn't it, that you have generations that experience. Was your grandmother aware of spirit? I know you said you were very close to your grandmother.
Well, we never talked. I don't remember talking about it, but she was definitely, she was religious. She had a sense of God, and I think that can have been a part of my upbringing. But I never felt myself like I did get baptized, as I also wrote in the introduction, that I did get baptized when I was 9 because I felt myself as a presence of God, the divine, but not in a sense of specific.
So you didn't relate that to having spirit contact. Sorry, I've digressed, haven't I, from your story? I'm really interested to hear about the next stage, because I love that you've kind of explained about this non-linear pattern of kind of experiencing dark periods and then kind of some light, and how actually it's easier to release our darkness, our suppressed emotions, when we kind of experience that lightness as well. Because I think the next stage you went into was a dark night of the soul. Is that right?
Yeah. So in 2012, I just had a breakdown. It was just from one day to another. That's how I felt. There was definitely a lot of things leading up to it, but it was this from one day to another. I just fell into this state of anxiety where I felt I died of trauma. And I just knew it was about past lifetimes, or about this lifetime traumas from, but I didn't know at all what. I just had to lean into it. Like, I had no other choice than just surrender into to the process, and I just had to kind of move into my parents' place, and I could get up to eat and go for walks and read spiritual books, and that was basically what I could for like 6 months, and I couldn't really I mean, even though I wanted to talk to my friends and other people around me, and I wanted to reach out in some way to explain what's going on, I couldn't, because I couldn't explain to anybody what was going on. Like I couldn't even explain, like my parents, or my mother, she had somebody guiding her in on the way, so she could kind of supporting also her in the process of being besides me.
Wow.
That was really, really important, and trying to tell her, no, she's going through a dark night of the soul, everything's going to be fine. But the moment, of course, it didn't feel fine at all. And I went to an alternative treatment with a woman. She was doing these homeopathic treatments, and she said to me, "You're going through a transformational process." And I was yes, but how can I get out of this state?
Yeah.
I think we have a reaction when we want to fix things. We want to kind of figure out, and that was my deeply learned.
Yeah.
My way of surrendering at that point has just been completely transformative for me. That I surrender.
That's so vital, isn't it? It's like, because you like you said, it's human nature to try and run away from the pain, whereas actually the transformation is going deep into the pain and seeing what messages it holds for us, which is really difficult and painful. Did you ended up being hospitalized at that point for a short period of time?
Well, at first I had had a doctor who was saying that I had a psychosis, and I couldn't really accept that kind of I couldn't put a feeling to that the label of psychosis. And I ended up changing to another doctor who was much more open. I could feel that he saw me, like he could see me, but I was still in that state that I was in, and he didn't know how to deal with it. So I was hospitalized, and when I arrived at hospital, there was this nurse who greeted me, and I only bought Angel Diary by Doreen Virtue. And she came in, and she looked at me, and she said, "I also have that book. I read for my children." And that calmed me a lot. That I just hearing that, but I still didn't know if what experience I could share, because also what happened before I was hospitalized was that at my darkest point of this experience, I was in this living hell. Like I am at the same time at that moment, this enveloping love and just compassion was just surrounding me, and that's how I want to describe what I felt like God or the universe. It's just this love that's just there, like it's just it's it can take up all space, like it's unlimited, and I just felt it was there for me no matter what. It was there. And that night, I just stepped out of the room and just went out walking in the middle of the night. Like I just walked the streets. I just went out, and everything was just dark to me. And then I was just showed a vision, like a little bit like the Lord of the Rings, when there is this time where it's so dark and there is all the orcs and everything. This time, the Lord of the Rings, and I was shown that if I wasn't staying here on Earth, that was gonna kind of, like I had to stay here for a purpose. Suicidal thoughts, like I didn't know how to get out of this state, and it was somehow divine just showing me, you are here to create this place on Earth, and that's like why you're here.
Wow. I love how you described that, because it happens just so alongside each other, doesn't it? It's like the duality of the human side of us that wants to die and the soul that knows it's here for a mission, and until those two can come together, it's so confusing and terrifying and painful.
I think for me the painful thing was that in fact I didn't want to die. Like I wanted to live. The thing was that I didn't know how to get to a point where I could get out of the state. Like that was how I felt. Like it was I had all of these thoughts of suicide, but everything I wanted was to really live life, embrace it. I knew there was something. I knew there was something to.
So what has helped you, and Kirstine? There will be people watching this, I'm sure, who are feeling that, and I that there are people I know going through that right now. And I think there are more and more people, I think, are kind of opening up to this. So what helped you to get from that point of not knowing how to the point where you are now, where you're about to, conduct some amazing research study on this international campaign? And I know you feel like you're living on purpose, and it's beautiful because I can feel it from you when we talk. I'm just wondering what helped, if you can let people know what helped you get from where you described, to where you are now.
Well, surrendering to everything was surrendering was the biggest part for me, to let go of control of what's going on. I think even though in the hospital I felt in the end I felt seen by the nurse, but I didn't feel seen that much in the hospital. Because I feel like the body and the mind was separate, the spiritual realm was not there. But what helped me was to surrender. And what came through me at the hospital was my intuition speaking so loud and clear for me that what I needed was healing. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know where to get the healing, because I've already done some treatments, healing treatments, and it did help me a lot. But I felt I need to go someplace to heal completely. Not completely, because whenever I think we're completely.
Yeah.
But so what happened to me was that I just had to trust that process trust my intuition, and trust I was going to be led by my heart to the place where I needed to go to heal.
And be brave enough to heal. I think that's huge to acknowledge, actually, because it's really frightening to dive into the darkness and not try and push it away. And that's why it's so wonderful that all of these conversations are happening now in the media around, let's just talk about our darkness, because that's the thing that we need to do to heal, not push it away, not say there's something wrong, to actually acknowledge that there's some real deep meaning in that darkness. And like you described before around the sexual incident when you were young, it's bringing it up to consciousness that you can then release it, isn't it? It's when we kind of try and not look at that it kind of gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and I think it's about confronting shame and about this whole idea, and for me also just to sit with the pain. I think the thing about surrendering is really being able to sit with it, and it's an ongoing practice and process. Like I think for me, sitting with the emotions and confronting my stories, like I think our view on our story also changes, and it's really about giving that time. And I just yesterday had a conversation with my friend about like it's also how I think the problem of society is that everything needs to go so fast, and we need that space. We both need time and space, and to be with somebody who can understand or can find meaning and validation in what we're going through. So I think time and heart space and meaning is so important to experience. I know for me was when I suddenly felt that intuition speaking so loud and clear to me. It was suddenly my own soul becoming also my guidance and my healer for my human person. So it's but what happened when I was after I was I came out of the hospital. I saw a documentary about a healer in Brazil. I can't even say his name.
I can't help you there, right?
in the US, he's a name drop guy. Doesn't really like that he's has that name, but he's a medium to the spirit world, and he has a place in Brazil in the mountains, on the hills around Brasilia, a little bit outside Brasilia. And I saw a documentary about him, and I just felt just love streams through my body, and at the same time I felt the anxiety being dissolved, and I just felt this is where I need to go. This is where I need to go to heal, and have that space to heal. And then in the meantime, I found a healing center in Jutland in Denmark, where they work with spiritual healing, with channeling messages to you, to your process, and also sitting in healing meditation. So I went there on a healing retreat, first on a healing weekend for 1 weekend. And for me, I must say, for me, the connection with the spirit it's really has been about healing. Like when I was at the first weekend there, I really feel I regained trust. And I had one experience when I was lying down. We had to do this healing meditation. I was lying down, and I was shown that Mother Mary was putting bandages all around my body.
Wow.
And it was just this complete mother love there for me to heal. And the thing was that my mind was a little bit, is this really going on? But the thing was that my mind couldn't stop the experience. And that was so real and so profound healing for me. So I think that's in the surrender, but also it's part of feeling that I'm being supported and guided.
I think that's part of the surrender as well, isn't it? It's like, you know, we tend to just want to be able to prove everything, go to logic all the time. And actually part of the surrendering is not needing to know, not needing to know whether it's real or not. It's healing, and that's all that matters. You know, we've got so engrossed with the scientific era that we've kind of forgotten that there are things that are just inexplicable. And the outcome is more important, you know. So that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think that's one point that's really important. Just the thing now about the healing process is that the reason why I could heal so profoundly suddenly and hold the pain and be able to go through that was because I felt that love from within and from the divine, and that feeling that I was able now. Because I think the reason why I feel that it's hard sometimes to hold the pain is because love goes out the picture, or we suddenly just feel that we feel loved, or that we doesn't all of these unworthiness feelings. So the only way to hold all of this, I think for me, it comes from that I was shown truly that the love lives within me. I need to get from outside, out of my soul. It's the love that is there, and that gave me the strength and the courage
certainly about building your own resilience and having strength within yourself. Incredible. So you spent some time working at the center after that, is that right?
After that, I first went to Brazil for 3 months. And that was
So is this what sparked your interest in the research? Is this kind of the time that you spent?
So when I was in Brazil, that was kind of where I just found out my calling is to work with healing. I need to find a way to bring healing into my study in health promotion. So I contacted the healing center in Jutland and asked, can I do an internship at the healing center? And they agreed, and then I just had to trust that my university would agree as well. The coordinator for the internship, she called me and she was, have you thought about how you're going to approach this scientifically? Like, yeah. And I just told that I was going to look at the phenomenon of spirituality, about spiritual healing, and trying to describe how is the healing process that people are going through. So I ended up doing an internship report about spiritual healing. That was my first step in my master's. And I remember my examination for the internship report. It was a medical researcher who was going to. And so I was a little bit nervous.
It's very brave of you. You're really building bridges. This is amazing. Building bridges between educational sector and spirituality. You know, it's all about building bridges everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's about, I think it's about these like small drops in the water. What everybody are doing. Like it's building this. making the movement stronger to change paradigms.
Yes. So how did you manage to bring this into your research? And so I interrupted you again then. I'm sorry. Stop me if I do that.
I think I've been very fortunate that they accepted it at my university. I mean, health promotion is a kind of, it is already an alternative approach to health, because they already implement psychological, social, and environmental aspect of health. They're trying to do holistically in that sense, but they haven't really I'm not educating anything about spirituality. But when I got my internship assigned, for the first time, a woman at my study was starting to look into mindfulness and look into how that affects on that more spiritual side in that sense. So she became my supervisor at that point. So there was just an opening at that point. It did when kind of really it flowed. In fact, and there was openness to it, but I did also get resistance, and I knew I had to stay humble. I think what really protected me a lot was that I knew myself, how I was before I had my awakening. I know how was my mother's experiences.
Yeah,
that gave me also the humbleness to just come into a room and stay in my truth, but at the same time listening to what others have to say, and what their view are on it. And I can just see when I look back, like it really sparked a curiosity. It also sparked curiosity in people, because it's just and that's so that had helped me a lot to do this research. Is that I feel attitude in my and it comes from my own life experience of having a hard time understanding these experiences.
Yes. I mean, this is a brilliant way of kind of showing people who are struggling to kind of really understand what this is all about, is to really kind of ground it in something solid and a theoretical framework that you're using to kind of really relay that information, which I'm so appreciative for. Would you mind just, I don't know if I've kind of brought you into your research, talking about your research too soon. Was there any further part of your story that you wanted to kind of direct us into, how you were kind of led to contact me, maybe? Because I know you were in Australia and you were intending to do some research on the Aboriginal culture.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should just end the story with my internship report, because to say what I did with that report was I was just studying the phenomenon, and this medical researcher, she was skeptical about the science, but she was so open about, like, she just really felt it awoke something in her.
Wow.
So, in some way, like, not, and definitely for me was the whole the science part about trying to make it scientifically as possible. So then what happened was that I went to Australia. That was after that, to do a study abroad in Melbourne, and I felt the study abroad in Melbourne was just a part of it. It was just I felt it was a spiritual reason why I was there, and I had a strong dream about Aborigines that was sitting and played the didgeridoo, and I felt they were kind of calling me that I need to go there. So I went there and I did my study, and then I went just directly afterwards. I went to the middle of Australia by my tent.
Wow.
Put up a tent there. It was just I knew from a friend that the Lama was going to be there just for one day. So I thought I was going to come there and experience that. And he apparently already had a dream about he wanted to touch the Ayers Rock in Central Australia. That was why he came there, it was just for a few hours, like just a big grass field. It was beautiful. And so I came there, and wow, there were so many things I could tell. But yeah, I in fact, before I left for that trip, I met 4 Aboriginal people in the middle of Melbourne. Normally there are no Aborigines in the middle of Melbourne. And we just started talking, and I felt I was just taking out space and time, and I told him about my dream, and we all got very touched about it. And then the man was very humble and part of that group. He didn't say that much, but then in the end he gave me a bracelet, a bracelet, and said, this is a snake, kind of snake bracelet, and it's going to protect you on your travels. And I was like, okay, I can go in the middle of Australia on my own. I'll be fine. You'll be fine. Yeah.
I really respect your bravery, and Kirstine, for really following that intuition, because it's not easy, is it? So you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now had you not done that. So it's like when I said before about feeling the flow in you, you know, when you talk about what you're doing and feeling completely on purpose, it's because you followed that drive and that intuition. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it is scary sometimes, like most of the time. Like, it is scary, and it's really part of it. Like, it's you know, it's just, even just sitting here just before I have an interview, I knew, okay, now I have to open up, I have to tell my story, like everything, it's part of it, but then it just takes over, and I know I'm back, and that kind of sense. So I think it's this part about, again, allowing the fear, because if I didn't allow the fear, that would even block me. I think it's really allowing the fear to be there, like it's I think it's even more purposeful. I think we all sometimes, when the fear, it's even, I can feel it's even more in my purpose, because I feel the fear, because I have to do it.
I can totally relate to that. Totally. I'm petrified every day. Oh gosh. So your intention was to do a study on the Aborigines.
Yeah, like,
so how did that then come around to finding Emerging Proud?
So the thing is that maybe I had a past life as an Aborigine, because I just felt like I had some purpose there, and I felt that I had to bring the voice out. Like, I really felt like a kind of such a strong connection to them at the same time. Like, my mind, I didn't really know that much, because I've only been in Australia for 6 months. So, but my connection to the culture and to the land and the nature there was just so profound. And I saw how their voice was suppressed, and I know myself, this feeling of their true power was being put away. And I think also this whole thing of coming to connection with my own soul was really kind of just seeing that kind of true power from within, and I just saw that in them. I just wanted to liberate them. Like, I'll be a part of it, because it's not me who liberate, but just be a part of bringing the voice out. So that was kind of that was my idea to do that, and at the same time I wasn't sure how, because I wasn't completely certain about my role in it. That was the thing. Like, I just felt like I was taking this journey. I was meeting so many people, telling me stories about reconciliation in Australia, how to reconcile the whole history, and and so it's so complex. Like, it's so complex. And I just realized when I was in the process in autumn last year, I just felt like even though I felt so connected to the Indigenous people, I felt like my story, what I have my heart in, like what I have been through, I was not grasping that completely in the thesis. So I just knew that somehow I needed my path had to be integrated, my complete path. And then I just started researching, looking for spirituality, psychiatry, what's out there. I found the book. Her name is Natalie Norbert.
Tobert. Tobert.
Yeah, and I started I don't know why, I was just guided to look at her appendix, and I thought
spiritual narratives in psychiatry.
Yeah. The book is called Spiritual Psychiatries. It's called.
Okay, so spiritual psychiatries. Sorry.
Yeah. And I was just guided to just look in her appendix, and I don't know why. It was, well, I know why now. It was written the Spiritual Christ Network. I was like, okay, I think I'll go that path because that sounds promising. And then I just started Googling Spiritual Christ Network, and then suddenly you popped up, and I saw your a clip. I think there was the clip of where you told your story in that
Crazy Wise blog.
Yes, exactly. And I was just like, okay. And then I got further to the Emerging Proud campaign. And I was like, I was just in tears. Like I was just, this is it. Like I felt the whole universe conspire. I was like,
oh, I just got shivers. Like I did when you contacted me. It's amazing. Magical.
Yeah. So that was the
wow.
That was the moment.
Wow.
I just felt like
and I suppose, energetically you're bringing the Aboriginal voice in too, because it's about reconnection, isn't it? Reconnection with our roots, our nature, our ancestry, spirit. So yeah,
that was what I felt like. I just felt that everything just emerged, and I emerged, not emerged.
Emerged.
Everything merged, I felt, because now I didn't just have to, like, if I was only writing about Aboriginal people, I would kind of exclude that everybody is going through this. Like it includes everybody, and that's what, it's so amazing. We're doing this work. It's that it includes everyone, and that is in all of us. And that's also what I want to bring forth with the Aboriginals, saying that they understood something that we have lost. Like
absolutely, yeah.
So I had the opportunity to bring forth, all of it.
Incredible. And talking about merging and your study, which we'll talk in detail about now, but at the same time, there's a UK researcher just about to launch another research study into the social safeness, the importance of social safeness when reporting anomalous experiences. And this is really aligned with the British Psychological Society's reports on trauma-informed care too. So we're really kind of trying to bridge this and bring it into the mainstream, because people are, at the end of the day, this is because people are dying. They're experiencing these things and feeling suicidal, like you've explained, and not being able to sit with that because it's not talked about. So, I mean, I'm so grateful that you got in touch, and I was just overjoyed when you did, because having someone that's writing a thesis on this and doing really grounding it is so vital. Would you mind just explaining more to me and everyone else about the detail of how you've gone about this and kind of the framework that you're using? And I know you're looking at patterns in people's experiences and how that is kind of, everyone's story is unique, but there are patterns and experiences. And
I do. I just wanted to add that when I got in contact with you, I first read your whole book just to and it was just, I remember this Martin Luther King quote, you have this big calling and you don't do it because you are afraid. And I just got this, like, I just got this feeling like even though I'm afraid, I'm gonna do it. Like this, and so I'm so grateful for everything you wrote in your book. Like it just resonates so much with myself, and like it gave me the courage and the strength to do it as well. Because I felt also heard and seen by your story, also that you have experienced, like had some of the similar experience of not understanding it, and then have your own experience, and then wanted to help others and
Thank you. I mean, we're all helping each other. Everybody that's been kind of jumping through their fear and involved in the campaign has helped me tremendously with my journey too. So I'm still petrified about talking out and doing this. So having you on board and having, everybody that's taken part in the campaign with the stories on board is just, we're all supporting each other. That's what this is about, isn't it? Collaboration.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So yes, so my research.
Yes.
So what I want to
I
tell
feel
is,
quite emotional. It's because I'm so exhausted, I think. Like, whenever I talk to you, I just get shivers completely. It's like, I can feel that you're on purpose and how connected we are. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's also one other part I think I want to add about the healing process. I think also for me, it's about also leading into, talk about sadness, about being able to lead into grief.
yeah,
So I think a lot about this is that it's not like this inherent feeling of who we truly are and ourselves and our this, that what I see also in the Aborigines is that they kind of lost that connection. There's so much grief in Australia. I can see, and that was also I really realized back then, both about the shaming of the people, them, uh, and then the grief that they so naturally are able to in fact in their culture to deal with, but that I think a society that yeah
yeah.
we don't get.
And maybe that's what you were tapping into too when you were talking about your dark night. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's happened in our own kind of current life, does it? We can tap into the collective unconscious feeling of the ancestors and that despair and grief.
Yeah.
So you're kind of energetically bringing that, transmuting that for them through what you're doing. So
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
yeah,
I,
really
I,
important.
if I can just tell one story about grief, I think it's very vital to say that when I was in Brazil, I was 26, 27, 26, and when my grandma died, I was 8. So many years, like 20 years had passed by, or about 20 years, and I hadn't grieved. I was feeling that sorrow and feeling that grief many times, and feeling that I really longed for her and I missed her. And when I was in Brazil, I was in contact with a woman who really could see that something was going on in me, and I didn't know what that grief was about. And then I remember after I had a talk with her, I went to my room and I just started crying like I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Everything just started to stream through me, and I didn't stop it. Like I didn't Josh, I just allowed it to just stream through me. And suddenly I realized that what I've been feeling all these years was that she abandoned me. And I suddenly realized, like, for me, it was her time to go, and she didn't abandon me. And when I realized that, all the love that I had for her could just be present, like, and since then I have just been with that presence of her. Like it's just she's with me in everything. Like she's alive now, inside of me. So of course, I think the grief is so natural because it's part of our human life that we lose. Not just people, but just also it can be a shift in our life. It can be end of relationship. It can be.
Do you know, I think that's such a common experience that we don't really acknowledge, isn't it? It's like we've all got this child within that experiences that sense of being unsafe. I've just had to do some work around that myself, another more layers to feel able to do this, because it's really frightening. And I think it comes down to not feeling safe to be seen and heard, and feeling abandoned. I think it's just humanity. That's kind of, it's something we all share. And it's beautiful, your description of kind of when that comes to consciousness, is you can just be present with what's left, the love and connection. And I think that's the thing that connects us all.
Yeah, and also that at that point that I was able to have the space to do that.
Yeah.
All those years, maybe I just I think everything has been happening for a reason. So my heart has built up, but it just that I couldn't. I was just feeling this heavy grief about my grandmother and sister, but I couldn't completely access it. And suddenly there, like I had the space,
right,
myself, and I could just, and I could just let it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something really important before as well about shame. I think it's about, having to release the shame to allow ourselves the space to go there, which you mentioned having to work on before. Because society creates this huge shame around experiencing distress, which blocks us from transforming it.
Exactly. Yeah. That is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And that's also where I think also the fear comes up. You know, why sometimes it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to step out, because it's now sitting here and talking. It's sharing vulnerable parts of us.
Yeah.
That's not what's kind of, you can say, rewarded the most, but I think that's what should be rewarded the most. Is really share your story and share your heart. And that's also how we basically connect. Like, that's why we're so disconnected. Like, shame is really about disconnection. So it's definitely like, I have addressed shame myself, and I still do. And I think for me, about my experience when I was 6 years old, that experience definitely was that I blocked it out because of kind of a shame of it. And in fact, in the end, it's not the experience itself, it's the shame around it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really, I think it's never about the experience. Like, when we can go into it and we can work with it for many, that's what frees it.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's also acknowledging shame. Like, it's also acknowledging that shame. It's we put up ways of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and morals, and it's and it is about being able to sit with
so true, isn't it? Yeah. We best talk about your research, because we could talk all day, I'm sure. Do you mind just explaining to people what you're intending to do, or what you've done, and the kind of the framework around that, please?
So it's a working process.
For people like me that don't understand the theoretical language that goes along with but it's a qualitative research.
For myself, like, it's been a working process as well, to getting all the theories and the right theory views, and I'm handing in July. That's my handing date, so it's in July. So I'm still myself in the process, but I can tell how I'm gonna do my my analysis of. So what I'm gonna do, to say, I'm gonna my empirical, that means my data for my study is gonna be the stories in the Emerging Power campaign. It's gonna be the 500 words that people write. And so what I'm going to do is that first I'm going to do a phenomenological hermeneutic study.
Gosh, I feel so bad as well. You're having to do this in English. I'm so sorry. I don't even understand it in English, and you're Danish and explaining in English. So thank you.
I'm writing my thesis in English.
So. Oh, are you? Wonderful. Okay. That's.
Everybody's been able to.
That's amazing.
No, okay. I'm going to do it a little bit slower. It's a hermeneutic, phenomenological, science approach. And that means that hermeneutics, that you interpret the stories, like you do an interpretation of them, and the phenomenology is that you're studying a phenomenon. So what I first want to do is that I want to try and figure out what is the spiritual phenomenon, or what are the stories telling about the spiritual phenomenon. So it will be something called crafting stories. Means I'm going to take out parts of it. So I'm going to interpret what is the spiritual parts in the stories and take them out, because there can be parts that are not. That is just telling the story. So I'm going to try to figure to find the similarities and also differences. So that's going to be the first part. Is in my study, and then afterwards I'm going to look into the stories and find out what is the transformational patterns that are happening. What are the stages of transformation that people are going through? And here there are some stages that it's a man called John Searle, and he made a theory called transformational learning theory, and it's been developing since 1975. I took this from a study already done about spiritual experiences in cancer patients, what they go through, and they have kind of found out that they go through these stages of transformation, and that's a study in health communication, which is my area, so it just fits perfectly into what I'm doing. And they talk about there's a trigger event, something that triggers the experience, and in this case it was cancer survivors, but like for me it was the breakdown, and that was the triggering event.
Mm-hmm.
Of course there are many other parts of it, but that was the central it. And then you have a catalyst experience. I think there are many catalyst experiences through this, and I don't think it's linear. It's put up in stages, and I don't think I can show it linear, but it's that there's something that's going to be a catalyst experience that creates the transformation. And for me, was definitely, I think, was the experience that I felt the presence of God, and that kind of love, and my own intuition was a catalyst experience, like through my process.
That's really interesting, actually, because I've often wondered. Because there are lots of triggering events, aren't there, like that can lead up to a big awakening experience where somebody has a satori, a connection with the divine, and your study is kind of showing maybe patterns around those triggering, and how many triggering events people have to lead them to that. Like you were explaining, you had kind of a few dips into a dark night of the soul before your big awakening experience. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think probably this transformation, I think, can happen over your lifetime. Like you can and I think the deeper your awakening has been, I think the easier for me it's become easier to work through the emotions because where I've been.
Yes.
So I think it builds up. Like it definitely builds up. I think, and the transformation is still going on inside of me. It doesn't.
Oh yes, yeah. It doesn't stop, does it?
But from the crisis, I can see from myself. I have been analyzing myself in the transformational learning theory. It works, and it does. I just to see that I'm just been taking the crisis when I had my breakdown in 2012 and see what happens from then. Just to see how that fits the stages of transformation.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're doing this, because people have mentioned in their interviews some people had just a huge trauma which woke them up kind of pretty much, in the moment, and other people have said they've had a kind of a slow opening, so maybe a kind of few triggering events during childhood, nothing major, not one big major crisis, but they're in the same places now. So it's really interesting that you're kind of tracking that evolution and kind of how different people can be opened up in different ways. Fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the part about the framework. I think we have to really work together to find out what is the framework.
Yeah.
One thing is, I think it's really validating that there is a transformation, and that's for sure. There's a transformation going on, but how it happens to each of us is different. And I knew there was a part of my soul, knowing when I went through this in 2012, that I knew I had to go through that. Like, I'm part of it.
Yeah.
I remember I talked to Laura, who's also part of the campaign. We had a mentor session. She could also see that was kind of, I knew it. It was just something that I had to go through to get to this point. So I think it's, that's,
wonderful.
It's gonna come. So the second part was the catalytic experience. Then there is immersion, and it's when you really just dive into it. And I think that's for me was in Brazil. Like I completely surrendered to it. It was an immersed experience, and then it says to have a turning point. And for me, I think my turning point was when I realized that this calling about working with healing, that was my path, and I had emerged to all of it. And then you start to integrate it afterwards. For me, I really just start to integrate my whole experience, also being hospitalized and having this awakening, and then this last part is disclosure to others. And when I came home from Brazil, there was people that I hadn't seen for some time, and I was about to explain what I had went through, and also, and that has really been for me a process.
Mm.
The integration and disclosure to others, because what I have been doing is I've been following my intuition to when I've been talking to people, is this a healing purpose to share it, like, and where and that's been my path. But right now I feel a shift, because also now this is really the first time that I really go public and tell like, and the rest has been in more in person with people and my family, and here I'm sharing like a lot, like, and I haven't even, it's not everybody that I've shared my experience in hospital, like, I think it's been so important for me, for people to when I tell my story, that it's shared in a space, in a heart space, that there's room for it to really be felt and be and be taken in, not necessarily understood, but just that they have an open heart and curiosity, that it supports something, and I really felt with people that have shared, like, it has opened also their hearts and their connection, and so but for me, this is it's a huge step in this disclosure to others, doing really telling my story, and I'm very grateful.
We're very grateful to you stepping up and being brave enough to disclose, and so thank you so much. And I was just thinking, actually, as you were talking then, that by you disclosing and your story, that's probably going to be a triggering event for other people too, which is good. It's on the path of their transformation. So I think we're all kind of helping to trigger each other. And one thing I love that you mentioned before was about, this is not exclusive. We're talking about, this is something that the whole of humanity can experience. And what we're trying to do is to raise awareness and create a safer society for people to experience and go through this transformation process, without having to go through such dark crises. If it's more understood, if it's more openly accepted and spoken about, then more and more people, as they are going through it, then hopefully it will be less distressing. I think it's always going to be difficult, but I think, by doing what you're doing and raising awareness for people who need something more grounded than just, stories that don't have any kind of theoretical framework around it, then it's going to resonate with different people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I want to add something about the groundedness, because I think for me, my spiritual experience has been that I even started to feel even more connected to my body. Like, I feel like now I can really just sense my body. And I think everybody has their journey, but I think there's also part of the spiritual idea about transcending and letting go of your physical your physical existence, that you are a spiritual being, and we are spiritual beings. We're living in this human form. The only way we can express our divinity is that we have a form.
Yes.
The human form. There are no places to do it. So that's why the body is so vital in this.
Yeah.
For me, the spiritual part has been grounding me. And that's why I feel so much more flow in my life. So it's not like it's a spiritual, but it can also take you off. Of course, it can take you off because you are healing through. And for me, it's healing to the spiritual. And then that's why it can be it becomes so dark and becomes so explosive, because it is also intense, and there's so many intense energies. So one thing is to sit with the emotion, but also be able to sit with the energies. Energetic experience, and that's also what's not kind of validated. That we are also we're energetic beings.
No, that's so important, isn't it? And I love that you said that, because that's been something more recently that's happened to me, is the kind of the coming back and being more in body, because I think it's easier to, when we first wake up, is just to identify as spiritual beings, because if there's a lot of trauma in our body, then it's scary to come back and work with that and work through that. And I think, people who are diagnosed with psychosis and who are disassociated, maybe it's because it's too frightening to come back to body and to face all of that. So, I'm really, really hoping that this is going to merge, as we were saying, with the work of you know, the more mainstream mental health system as well. They're looking at trauma-informed care, and it's so connected to that. I mean, like you said in your report as well, that you can't disconnect that, can you? We're not, you know, we're having spiritual experiences, but it's not disconnected from what's happening in us physically. And you explained that the hospital didn't acknowledge that when you tried to talk about it when you were.
Well, in fact, I wanted to talk about in hospital, but I didn't feel at all that framework. I did talk to a psychologist about it. I said to him, like, how I feel emotionally, my body reacts to it. And then he looked at me with his own frustration about how things are in psychiatry, saying to me, nobody understands that in here. Like, he was frustrated as a psychologist, not like that connection wasn't there. But yeah, so. But I do think that there are already a movement going on about understanding that the body and the mind are connected. I definitely think that but the spiritual part is not. And when I was in Brazil, I remember there is when I saw a documentary about Brazil the first time, there was a lady in the documentary, and she said, "What we are doing here is energy work." And the thing is that I think also one thing is to talk about what we've been through in our stories, but one thing is also if the energy shifts radically, it's where you don't have to talk through it. And I did a workshop recently about shifting shame, releasing fear. That is, it's where you do movements through energies, and that's just completely different. And so you don't have to talk so much about it, but suddenly you can shift the energy just by. So there are, of course, many ways about working with energies, and I definitely think talk and energy work and validation.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you mentioned that, the different healing modalities, because if someone's experienced really extreme trauma and they can't cognitively talk about it or bring it to consciousness, then yes, doing an body work or another kind of healing technique that works with the energy is at least a first step into maybe making it safer. And we're going to be talking about this and lots of different healing modalities and ideas and innovations at the event in London on the 12th of May, and I'm so like excited that you're going to be joining us for that, and Kirstine, so you're going to be there at the host event with us in May. So people will get to meet you. If is it okay if people come and ask you any questions about your research, if they're intrigued about that?
If you have any questions, just come. I'm here for them.
Bless you. And I've heard that Denmark has a beautiful kind of community spirit that you do, which is called hygge. Is that right? So maybe we should practice some hygge on the day.
The beautiful thing I think about Denmark, we have this thing called hygge, is when you sit inside with some tea, with some candlelight, with a blanket, and it's cozy. Like the best word is cozy for hygge, but it doesn't really say it. Like it's a special word called hygge. That's what's great and beautiful.
So we're intending the event to be a hygge event, absolutely. So yeah, come and have lots of hugs and blankets and tea, everybody. We'll be in fear together and just come up with some amazing, inspirational, soul-led innovations. So yeah, thank you so much, Kirstine, for sharing and everything that you're doing. I'm so grateful that you reached out and, you know, stepped into your courage to do this. Really grateful. And to your university for being open-minded enough to let you do it too. It's wonderful. So presumably we can share with everybody the results in July.
Yes.
So you've submitted your study, or maybe afterwards, like I don't know how long it takes to get that back, but
examination afterwards probably. I can choose either to get a grade or have an examination to kind of defend the whole thing, everything I've written and have a sense on it, and that's I'm planning to do that, and that would be probably be in August, I think. Yeah. So, but I will keep I'll keep you posted about.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And is it likely to be published anywhere? Do you know?
Yes, well, it's published on the library of my university, so it's public, so it's not it's public, it's not private.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we can see if we can get any of the psychology magazines to look at it here too. So that would be really exciting.
That would be amazing.
Thank you so much for your work, and really looking forward to meeting in person in London on the 12th of May.
Thank you so much for everything.
Oh, thank you.
Because of your work.
And I'm doing mine because of the people that have come before that have given me the confidence to do it. We're just all, it's kind of feels like it's just, a snowball now. We're just kind of, everyone that's stepping up and speaking out is helping the next person and the next person and the next person. And I wouldn't be doing this had it not been for people that had come before. So
yeah, I'm grateful to the whole universe and everybody who's in it.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. And I will blog about you and your research shortly. Okay. See you soon.